Back when I was really into books and reading, I had an account on NetGalley, the website where you can get books before they are published in exchange for writing a review about them. I really enjoyed my time with NetGalley, but unfortunately I was feeling a little bit overworked, undervalued with all of my book reading and the reviews that I was doing, and I ended up deleting all of my bookish accounts for anything ever, including my NetGalley account. Recently I've been trying to get a little bit more into books and just having a hobby where I actually enjoy things, and one of the things that I have been missing is my NetGalley account. I love being able to receive books before they are published, being able to be one of the first people to read them, tell you guys about them, and just have that really cool experience. So I recently re-signed up for NetGalley, and now I need to build up my profile again and show publishers that, hey, I can review books for you if you give me books. In case you don't know how NetGalley works, you have a feedback ratio, and this is just basically how many books that you have received versus how many books that you have reviewed. They recommend that you have your ratio 80% or above so that publishers can see that you are actually reading the books that they send you. And so, for example, if you have one book that you have requested, but you have not written a single review for that book, then your ratio is 0. Similarly, if you have 2 books that you have received and you have written a review for one of them, your feedback ratio is 50%. Now, one of the rules that I have kind of set for myself with NetGalley is I really want to read and review at least 10 books before I go on to requesting some bigger titles. And so in this video I am going to be reading 3 books so I can get my ratio up just a little bit and start working on it. These books are from the Read Now category on NetGalley, so it means anybody who has an account can read them and review them, kind of like the very beginning level for people on the platform. You are guaranteed to get them without your request being denied by the publisher. So, yippee! So let's hop into these books. I'll tell you a little bit about them, and let's get into raising my NetGalley ratio. Okay, so I just read the first chapter of Cold Feet, and I already feel like I have a pretty good understanding of what this book is going to be about. So I wanted to let you guys know. Our main character's name is Lana, and she is the social media / PR kind of person for a hockey team in St. Petersburg. The book opens up with her getting called into a meeting where they are talking about how one of the hockey players, whose name is Cam, is getting a deal for shoes that's going to pay him close to $5 million for the next 3 years. Obviously, he really wants to get this deal, but the only problem is they don't really like his public image all that much. He has been on social media portrayed as being a heartthrob, man-slut sort of person, and that public persona was actually crafted by the main character, Lana, as a way to get more people into hockey in general, but also into their games in particular, sell more tickets, Hey, there's this hot guy on the team, you totally want to come and see him, right? So the team decides that it is obviously up to Lana to figure out how to change his image and how to make it so that he is what the sneaker company wants him to be. The way that they have decided this is going to work out is obviously he needs a girlfriend, right? Because his whole public image is based on him always having somebody new every week, he needs to settle down. And who better to settle down with than our main character? Not only that, they should get engaged. It is so silly, so unrealistic so far. But like I've said in previous videos, a book doesn't need to be realistic in order to be good. You know going into this that it is going to be a little tropey, a little unserious like this. And I feel like so long as you're having a good time with a book, it doesn't really matter whether or not it is realistic or has a good writing style or anything like that. Enjoyment is a bigger factor towards whether or not a book is good than any other details. So I am excited to see how this one goes as well. Small detail, but I'm not 100% sure how it goes yet. It seems as though Lana and Cam know each other. Like, he is her older brother's best friend, I think. At the very least, you know, he and her older brother are friends. And so we have that, but as well, I'm getting little hints that maybe they had a night together in college. And then I don't know why they didn't, like, stay together. It seems as though he left in the morning without telling her. And I don't know the full details of that, but just a little intrigue, you know? Obviously, this being a romance book, they're gonna get together by the end of it. So why did it not work out the first time? Is it going to work out the second time? I'm definitely really intrigued by the story so far, so I'm going to hop back into it, read a little bit more, and I'll let you know how it goes. Alright, so I just finished Cold Feet by Lisa Daly, and I wanted to let you guys know my thoughts and feelings. This book simultaneously felt like it was going a little too fast and also a little bit too slow. Like, it had all of the details in the world, and also I wanted more details in certain things. So we had things like the main character's brother was very protective of her, like overprotective, and we were told that he would often like threaten people, threaten the other hockey players, that like if you even so much as look at her, he's gonna beat you up. But then we never really got that. We got like little hints and pieces here and there of like, oh yeah, when they were in college he beat up this person, and just them like kind of being a little bit scared of him. But college was 10 years ago for these characters, and also the one moment that we have where he is supposed to be overprotective and they're like actively scared of him. He just kind of hears this news that they are engaged, and he's like, okay, and walks off. Like, we never really got that feeling of overprotectiveness, and I wanted a little bit more of that, even though the story's not about him. Still, that seemed like such a big part of the story, and I wanted it to just be a little bit bigger. But then also on the other side of things, we get these scenes where at the end of the chapter, let's say that we're walking into a building and they're having a conversation, maybe they're learning something, and they have this like moment of realization as they are walking up to the door of the building. And then the next chapter starts and they will be talking and they'll have this moment of realization as they are opening the door to the building. And it's just like, it's too much. I get it. They're having this realization. You didn't have to tell me twice. And also they're opening a door. I don't need multiple pages of these characters opening a door. I get it. They're going to a different place. So I found a little bit of frustration in that the big scenes that I thought would have really made this book pop were not descriptive enough, whereas the scenes in between, the like segue scenes, I guess, the ones in between two important scenes where the characters are like walking to a different place, were too overly descriptive and felt like they were repeating, even though like there were often times, there's like 3 times total I think, where I would look back at the previous pages and go, okay, on paper, yes, they have yet to open the door, but in my head I'm already past that. I'm moved on already. Story-wise though, in my enjoyment of the story, I kind of liked it. I am feeling so confused at my own feelings on whether or not I want this book to be a 3 or a 4 star, because I don't like doing half-star ratings. All of the places where I need to rate books, like Goodreads, on NetGalley itself, things like that, they don't do half-star ratings. So I don't like personally giving books half-star ratings, and then on those sites needing to choose one or the other. And so I'm in an interesting dilemma where, like, I liked the story, but I didn't like it enough that I feel like it should be 4 stars. I feel like it's somewhere around a 3.5, but I can't say 3.5. It wasn't bad enough that I want to give it 3 stars, but it also wasn't good enough that I want to give it 4 stars. But since this is an arc, I think I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, and I will say 4 stars. There were also a couple of things just in, like, the formatting that I need to write a note to the publisher and be like, hey, a couple things here that I wanted to point out, because with getting arcs, you're not getting the final copy of the book. You're getting, like, an advanced copy where you are one of the very first people to read it. And so it's mostly what the book is going to look like, but there might be a couple of errors here and there were in the reading experience. Something that always pops up, specifically because I'm reading this on my Kindle. And Kindles just have this problem in general. I don't remember the fix for it, but the publisher would, is that text messages in books don't always show up on Kindles. There's a specific way that you need to show text messages in books in order to get them to show up on Kindles. And this book had a fair number of text messages between the characters. I could tell when the characters were texting each other, but I couldn't read any of it because for me, it was just a blank page with nothing on it. You know, so, like, little things like that where it's like, I understand, you know, with it being an advanced copy of a book, it's not fully perfect in the way that it is going to look when it is published. But just little details so they know in advance, hey, by the way, the text messages don't show up on Kindle. Alright, so I just started Breakups and Bouquets by Bailey Black. I'm at the point where I know everything that was talked about in the synopsis, and I wanted to let you guys know my thoughts so far and what this book is about. So we start with our main character getting broken up with, as a lot of romance books tend to do. Like, not a lot, but there's a fair chunk of romance books where it starts with the main character getting broken up with. She was engaged. Her wedding was going to be in a week, a little bit over a week. And I'm not lying to you when I say this is one of the most horrific breakups that I've ever read in a book ever. Like, it was rough. There are a couple of lines that really made me go like, wow, holy shit, why would you say that to somebody? Her ex says that, like, let me set the scene for this just so we can share how absolutely horrific it is and go into a little bit more detail. So our main character, when she was growing up, she didn't believe in love because a lot of, like, her family circumstances and then also her friends and their family, she just didn't believe that love was a thing. And so she would go on dates, but she would only give people like 3 dates until she would break up with them. And she was very upfront about that because she didn't want to get attached to anybody, fall in love, and find out that it was all fake at the end. But with this man who she was engaged with, she really felt a connection. She let him go through more than 3 dates. They ended up getting engaged. She ended up getting a wedding business, like planning weddings, because she was so sure in this relationship and so sure in love in general, right? So they're having a night at their favorite restaurant. They're sitting down, and he says, maybe it's not that I don't want a future with anybody. It's just that I don't want a future with you specifically, and I don't want to get married to you specifically. Like, for this man to have completely changed her point of view on love and marriage and all of that, and then absolutely break her heart like that by saying that, like, it's not me, it's you. You know? So anyway, she has a scene that's highly deserved where she is in her office. It's like 2 a.m. She's blasting Taylor Swift. She's absolutely drunk. And she decides, you know, because they have this wedding that's going to happen in a little bit more than a week. She decides that instead of having the wedding, she is going to give it to somebody. She's going to use it as like a PR moment for her business and do a raffle in order to give it away to a deserving couple. And then the landlord for her office, who has a rule, by the way, that says that everybody needs to be out by 7 p.m. Like, nobody's allowed to work after 7 p.m., sees her in her office at 2 a.m. and not kicks her out, but like pulls her out of the office and sets her up in his guest bedroom for the night because she's like drunk as hell. Anyway, next morning happens. This is all really important, I promise. I'm not just summarizing, I am giving you what you need to know in order to understand this book. The next morning, somebody comes into her office saying that he saw the advertisement about this wedding that she is giving away, and pretty much putting his case for like why he and his fiance should get the wedding. Basically, his fiance has cancer, and they want to get married quickly, like just in case, but also he thinks that'd be really good. He like totally 100% believes that she's going to get through this and it's going to be okay, just as a way so that she can have something happy happen, because she's about to have a lot of really negative experiences. And our main character thinks that's absolutely beautiful, and she's like, okay, giveaway's over, like you are going to have this wedding. Where these two events connect, though, is that this man is the fiancé of the landlord's stepsister. And the landlord knows that his stepsister, and also like the fiancé, knows that the stepsister is not going to accept this wedding because she does not want handouts. She doesn't want anybody to feel sorry for her. So the landlord suggests that they have a fake story to put out where he and the main character are fake dating, and the main character wants to give this wedding to the stepsister, both as like a nice thing to do and also because it would be good PR for her business, which does make sense. But yeah. I am really enjoying this book so far. I'd be very surprised if this was not a 5-star read once I'm done with it. I'm 22% of the way in right now. It's absolutely flying by, and also I'm having the time of my life. The writing style is just so good. I'm really liking the love interest / landlord in this book, and I'm really excited to hop right back into it. So I just wanted to let you guys know what the book was about while I have the full synopsis read and understood before I just read through this whole thing and then I'm like, hey, by the way, so I read this book. Sorry, I should also say as well, it's been like 30 seconds since we last talked. The landlord character, when he was in college, he had a crush on the main character. She doesn't recognize him now, but he always really wanted to ask her out but never got the confidence to do it. So now with him recommending this fake dating scheme, there's a scene that I'm reading right now where he like gets alone in an elevator, and he's in that elevator going, oh my gosh, it's so cute. I like him a lot, and I can't wait to read more of this book. Okay, so I am currently 32, damn, 72% of the way through Breakups and Bouquets. It's been 3 days, I think that's where I got 3 from, since the last time that I read this, and I don't remember the last thing that I talked to you guys about, which is unfortunate. But the one thing that I do want to say is that I am really enjoying the writing style of this, the characters, and how they talk to each other, I guess, because there have been so many moments within this book where a character says something and I go, damn, you just came out and said that. And sometimes it's a good thing, you know, where it's like you're so surprised that you're like, oh my god, damn. And sometimes it's a bad thing where I literally just read this scene and I'm so sorry because I can't tell you anything about it because it would be massive spoilers for the book. But this one character says something, again, spoilers, and my literal reaction upon reading that was the lion, the witch, and the audacity of this bitch. Because are you kidding me that you would say something like that? Like, it's so good. I'm really liking the way that this author is writing, because you get all these moments where you're reading a story and it's going, you know, the way a normal story would go, and then a character says something so audacious that you're like, holy fuck. I really, like, props to the author for having a writing style that allows for that sort of thing. Okay, so I just finished Breakups and Bouquets, and I wanted to give you some final thoughts on it, but I'm not 100% sure how to describe my feelings because I have such, like, mixed and detailed thoughts on this, you know? So I really liked the book. It was really good. One thing that I am kind of unsure about is the tone of the book in general, because I do appreciate that romance books these days are going away from the third act breakup and not having that drama, because after a while, you know, it's different when it's like one or two books that have it and you're like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But when every single book or a big majority of books have the same twist to them, it gets a little bit boring. And so, like, I don't hate a third act breakup. I'm just saying that with romance books these days having less and less of third act breakups, it is a nice little fun detail. I'm enjoying that trend recently. However, this book also takes it like one step further in the fact that a lot of the drama that I feel like you're expecting from this book doesn't happen. There were a couple of different things that I was like, this is going to be a big deal and a really big moment when it finally pops up, like in the story near the third act. And then it pops up and everybody's just like okay with it, and it's like, oh, all right. And it's kind of like, you know, something bad is going to happen, and so you're building up these walls, you're building up these defenses, and then everything's fine and it all fizzles out and you're just left with, oh, okay. Like, and it's such a weird feeling to describe because it's not a bad feeling. It's very comforting almost that you didn't need to build those walls and those defenses, but it does still feel like you're kind of left in the dust and you're like, this is strange and unusual, you know? Like, I just want to reiterate, it's not a bad thing. I don't think that it's a bad feeling. It's just so strange that I feel like I don't know how to react to it. Another thing that I want to note is that this book had like 4 epilogues. It was not formatted as though they were 4 separate epilogues. They were all in the same chapter, but it was like 4 separate scenes back to back to back where we were going a little bit further in time. It was like 2 months later, and then 6 months later, and then a year later, or something like that. 2 years later, maybe the final one? I have no idea. I just read it, and I don't know what the timeline was, but I do feel like that was a little bit too much. I feel like the 2 months later was really needed, and I'm really appreciated of that, because if the book didn't have that 2 month later epilogue, I would have been so angry. But the other epilogues while they were nice to see, and I really like catching up with the characters and how they have grown within that time span, it's also like, I don't really need it. You know, if we stopped the book after the 2-month epilogue, I would have felt fine with it. It's just something extra that's like, I don't need this, but thank you for including it. Anyway, with all that being said, I did really like this book though. I really liked the author's writing style. Like I said, the way that the characters talked to each other. There were a couple details here and there, like the main character's sister I found just to be a little bit too outrageous, but that's just her character, you know, little details here and there where I'm like, this isn't exactly my cup of tea, but I can understand that somebody else would like this. So I think all in all, I am rating the book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. Like, the fact that I could not read for 3 days straight because I was just too busy to pick up a book kills me inside, because all I wanted to do was pick up this book again. And I am just really glad that I ended up picking it up and being able to talk about it to you guys. And in a move that is honestly really shocking even for me, I am DNFing the 3rd book that I was going to read for this video, a whole 3 chapters in. That's how badly I hated this book. So the book that I was going to be reading is Charlie Quinn, Let's Go by Jamie Varon. This book, from what I remember of the description, our main character's name is Charlie, of course. She has a lot of things go wrong for her all at once, and that's what I read in the first 3 chapters. Each aspect of her life that I'm about to tell you, one thing going wrong in like the first chapter, and then the second thing goes wrong in the second chapter, and the third thing goes wrong in the 3rd chapter. So, to give you an idea, she wakes up in the morning of her 30th birthday, and just also for reference, like, she says that her boyfriend is sleeping in, and that is normally not something that he does, and she's like, is he sick? But that doesn't matter to her because she needs to go into work. She is a character who is very focused on her work. The book even has her saying something about how her life is completely dedicated to her work, and that is something that is such a good description of her character. Like, every aspect of her life is dedicated to her work. But morning of her 30th birthday, she goes into work. She gets fired. Yay. Then she comes home and she is talking to her boyfriend, and they get into a discussion about how she doesn't want to go out for dinner because historically she has not had great times on her birthday, and so she just doesn't want to celebrate it, which is valid. And her boyfriend brings up the fact that she never wants to do anything fun. Like, it's not just the fact that she doesn't want to celebrate her birthday, but she doesn't want to go on vacations. She doesn't want to do anything fun, and how he is really craving something fun in his life, you know? One thing I can also tell you is that this book, despite getting published like this year in 2025, is a pandemic book where we are focusing on the aftermath of COVID. And so her boyfriend is talking about how after the pandemic happened, that really made him open his eyes and see that he doesn't just want to keep working all the time. He wants to have fun. He wants to find like a reason for living, a hobby, and really just enjoy life. Whereas she, as we've said, is all about work. All she wants to do is work. All she wants to talk about is work. She is her job. And so also on her 30th birthday, the day that she gets fired from her job, she gets broken up with her boyfriend. Cool. And then chapter 3 starts with saying that like something else is going to go wrong. Very quickly we find out what it is. She ate dinner, which another fun detail for you. She is so focused on her work that she pre-makes dinners, and it's always chicken and broccoli. Every single night is chicken and broccoli. She pre-makes it. She just gets it out of the fridge, pops it in the microwave, and eats it every single night. There's nothing wrong with meal planning if that's, something that you want to do, but I'm just saying all these little details adding up to a character who is so focused on her job that she is not living her life. She is her job. Anyway, she microwaves herself some chicken and broccoli. She gets food poisoning. She is violently throwing up. Like, sobbing because she is throwing up so much. Throughout the rest of the book, according to the description, she is supposed to move back home with her mother and her sister. There's supposed to be some sort of romance aspect to it. She meets a guy who makes her want to start living life, and she changes her life around, becomes somebody who enjoys fun rather than just all about work. But in these first 3 chapters, I found her so infuriating that I don't even want to read her story, I was actively in the first chapter hoping that she'd get fired for her job. The second chapter, I was hoping her boyfriend would break up with her. The food poisoning was a surprise, okay? Wasn't expecting that. But those first 2 things, I was actively hoping that something bad would happen to her because she was just so infuriating of a character. I wanted everything in her life to go wrong. And it did. But you know what that also means? I don't want to read about her. I don't like her. I was also going through a few other people's reviews on Goodreads to see if there was anything that pops up later in the book that makes me want to read it, anything that jumps out. There is a lot of 5 and 4-star ratings on Goodreads, but I was reading this one person's review who said that, and they didn't specify when exactly this happens, but they had gotten 100 pages of the way through a 270-something page book, and they still had yet to meet the love interest, who is supposed to change the main character's life around and make her want to start living. And that really stood out to me because currently, I can't remember if I've said it in this video or not, I'm in a really big romance mood. I read so much darker fantasy that I'm I am really craving right now, to borrow the boyfriend's words, something lighter, something a lot more fun. And for a book that's supposedly all about how she loses everything in her life and then meets somebody who teaches her how to start living, how to start enjoying life. But at over a third of the way through the book, and we aren't even introduced to that character yet, why do I want to read it? That review said that it read more as women's fiction than it does romance. And I don't like women's fiction. I don't want to read women's fiction. That's not what I'm here for. So in a surprising twist, I was not expecting to DNF any of the books in this video, but I think I'm going to put this one down. I just am not interested in it. Like I said, I don't like the main character. I'm actively wishing for her downfall. That's not something that I want to read. I don't want to have those feelings. The good thing, though, since this is supposed to be a video about me rejoining NetGalley and trying to read all of these books in order to get my feedback ratio up, is that you can DNF a book, and that's okay. You don't have to finish every book. The only thing is, and a lot of people get confused about this, there is a thing that says, I don't want to review this book or something along those lines, and a lot of people who DNF books will choose that option, not review the book, and then their feedback ratio goes down because they haven't reviewed the book. When in actuality, you can DNF a book, you just have to give your thoughts, like a review. So while a DNF is not the most exciting thing to go on in this video, it is at least understandable, and there is a way that I can still market and share my thoughts with the book and why I DNF'd it, while also raising my feedback ratio, and this isn't like a hit on my numbers. But with all that being said, that is going to be the end of this video because that's all that I had planned. At the very least, we had 2 books that I really enjoyed, Cold Feet and Breakups and Bouquets. Both of them were really good. I enjoyed them a lot more than I was expecting to, which sounds mean to say, but also like I was pleasantly surprised with both of them, and I am excited to see what other books that I can read first and let y'all know what you should be picking up in the future. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and close out this video for now. So, thank you for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time for another video on my channel.